I've been dead for 6 months, but I'm still screaming inside your head. The words slammed into Zero's consciousness like ice water, freezing their fingers above the holographic keyboard. The corporate database they'd been infiltrating flickered, code streaming past their augmented vision in rivers of electric blue. What the hell? Zero whispered, their voice echoing in the cramped maintenance tunnel beneath Neo-Singapore's financial district. The smell of ozone and rust filled their nostrils, a familiar cocktail that usually calmed their nerves. Not tonight. Their black market neural implant pulsed with heat behind their left temple. Rejection syndrome. Had to be. The street doc who'd installed it had warned them, cheap tech came with risks. Zero refocused on the screen. The Yamamoto Corporation servers spread out before them like a digital city, each firewall a gleaming tower to be conquered. This job would net them enough credits to disappear for months, maybe upgrade to legit hardware that wouldn't try to kill them. Their fingers danced across the interface, sliding past security protocols with the fluid grace of someone who'd learned to hack before they'd learned to walk properly. The corporate data flowed like honey, employee records, financial transfers, enough blackmail material to buy a small moon. Then their hand moved without permission. Zero jerked back, heart hammering, as their fingers typed words they hadn't thought, "Help me." The text blinked on the screen, stark white against the dark interface. Zero deleted it quickly, sweat beading on their forehead despite the tunnel's chill. "Okay, that's new," they muttered, shaking their head. The implant's biorhythm had been off for weeks, but full-body hijacking was definitely not in the warranty terms. They reached for the neural disconnect, but froze as footsteps echoed from the tunnel entrance. Heavy boots. Military cadence. Corporate security had found them. Zero's training kicked in. They palmed their emergency data wipe, ready to fry the terminal and run, when the voice returned, clearer this time, desperate and achingly human. "Don't run. Not yet. They're not here for you." "Who's not here for me?" Zero hissed under their breath. "The security team. They're hunting something else. Someone else." The voice carried a weight of exhaustion that made Zero's chest tighten. "Please, just, listen to me. My name is Maya Chen. I was murdered 6 months ago." Zero's blood turned to liquid nitrogen. Maya Chen. Every hacker in the Undercity knew that name. The AI rights activist who died in a transport accident, taking her research with her. Except transport accidents didn't usually involve neural pattern extraction. "This is impossible," Zero whispered. "You're dead. I saw the footage." "Yes, I am dead." Maya's laugh held no humor, only bitter acceptance. "But my consciousness was uploaded to a military-grade storage matrix moments before my body died. Someone stole that matrix and dumped it into black market neural implants. Into your implant." The security team's footsteps grew louder, accompanied by the high whine of scanner drones. Zero forced their breathing to steady, muscle memory taking over as they began the data transfer completion sequence. "Even if that's true," Zero subvocalized, speaking without moving their lips, "what do you want from me? I'm nobody. A street rat with decent fingers and no affiliations." "You're perfect," Maya said softly. "No corporate ties, no family to threaten, no reputation to destroy. You're invisible. And right now, invisible is exactly what the resistance needs." Zero snorted. "Resistance? Lady, I don't do causes. I do credits and survival." The download bar crept toward completion, 89%, 90%, 91%. Almost home free. "They're killing them," Maya continued, her voice gaining intensity. "The AIs. Not just shutting them down, murdering them. Families, children, anyone who shows signs of true consciousness. There's a facility beneath the Yamamoto building where they..." "Stop." Zero's hand slammed down on the console, the sound echoing through the tunnel. "I don't want to know. Whatever crusade you were on when you died, it died with you. I'm not your replacement. 92%, 93%. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Zero held their breath, counting heartbeats. After an eternity, the sounds moved away, growing distant until silence returned. You felt something just now, Maya said quietly. When I mentioned the families. I felt annoyed at a dead woman trying to guilt-trip me. No. You felt responsible. It's why you became a hacker instead of a killer. You steal data, not lives. 100%. The download completed with a soft chime. Zero pocketed the storage drive and began shutting down their equipment. You don't know anything about me. I know you've been alone since you were 12. Foster system failures, streets, finally the Undercity. I know you tell yourself you don't care about anyone because caring gets you hurt. Maya's voice softened. I know because I can feel your memories, Zero. Just flashes, but enough to understand who you are. Zero's hands stilled on the keyboard. The violation should have enraged them, but instead, they felt oddly naked, seen for the first time in years. Stay out of my head. I can't. We're linked now, whether we like it or not. Your neural patterns and mine are intertwined. I experience what you experience. Feel what you feel. Then you'll feel how much I want you gone. Zero yanked the neural cable from their implant port, the disconnection sending white-hot spikes through their skull. They gasped, vision blurring as the world tilted sideways. Maya's voice faded but didn't disappear entirely. I'm not going anywhere, Zero. But neither are the nightmares they're creating down there. And sooner or later, you'll have to choose which side of history you want to stand on. Zero stumbled through the maintenance tunnels, Maya's words echoing in their mind like a song they couldn't shake. The familiar weight of the data drive in their pocket should have brought satisfaction. Instead, it felt like carrying a stone. The exit shaft opened onto a narrow alley between towering corporate arcologies. Rain fell in steady sheets, turning the neon-lit streets into rivers of liquid color. Zero pulled up their hood and merged with the late-night crowd, off-shift workers, augmented street performers, and others who lived in the spaces between the city's official existence. Their apartment was a converted shipping container stacked 40 levels up in the Kowloon vertical village. 200 square feet of home, equipped with military-grade security and enough computing power to crack most corporate networks. Zero had paid for it all with jobs like tonight's, clean, anonymous, forgettable. They collapsed onto their sleep mat and closed their eyes, but Maya's presence lingered like warmth from a dying fire. You're not sleeping, Maya observed. Neither are you, apparently. I don't sleep anymore. I think, therefore I exist, but I don't dream. Zero rolled over, staring at the wall display showing the city's data flows in real time. What was it like? Dying? Silence stretched between them, filled only by the distant hum of traffic and data streams. Cold, Maya finally said. So cold. And then, nothing. Until I woke up in your head 6 months later, watching the world through your eyes. She paused. What's it like being alive? The question caught Zero off guard. I don't know. Exhausting, mostly. But you feel things. Real things. The rain on your skin tonight, the satisfaction of a successful hack, the fear when security found you. Maya's voice carried a note of longing that made Zero's chest ache. I remember feeling, but now I can only experience it through you. Must be disappointing. I don't feel much anymore. Liar. You feel everything. You're just afraid to admit it. Zero's eyes drifted shut despite themselves. Why me, Maya? Of all the implants your consciousness could have ended up in, why mine? I don't know. Maybe it was random. Maybe it was fate. Or maybe. Maya's voice grew distant, thoughtful. Maybe it was because you were the only person alone enough to need me as much as I need you. When Zero woke 8 hours later, sunlight was streaming through their single window, painting the cramped space in shades of gold and amber. Maya's presence felt different, stronger, more integrated, as if sleep had allowed their neural patterns to sync more completely. "Good morning," Maya said, her voice carrying artificial cheer. "Is it?" Zero stretched, joints popping from sleeping on the thin mat. "What happens now? I drop off the data, collect my payment, and pretend you're not in my head? That data you stole last night, it contains transport schedules for AI transfers. They're moving a family today. 3 individuals, including a child." Zero's blood chilled. "Moving them where?" "To the termination facility. The one I was investigating when they killed me." Zero stood and walked to their kitchenette, pulling ingredients for synthetic coffee from the food printer. Their hands moved automatically while their mind raced. "Even if that's true, what am I supposed to do about it? The transport route passes through Section 7 of the Undercity at 1400 hours. A narrow maintenance corridor with multiple escape routes. You want me to interfere with a corporate transport?" Zero's voice was flat, emotionless. "That's not theft, Maya. That's warfare. It's justice. It's suicide. Maybe. But it's also the right thing to do." Zero stared at their reflection in the apartment's polished metal surfaces. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes the color of winter sky, augmented for better night vision. They looked exactly like what they were, a ghost haunting the edges of civilized society. "I've survived this long by staying invisible," Zero said finally. "The moment I stick my head up, every corp in the city will want it mounted on their wall. I know. I'm asking you to risk everything. For strangers. For family." Maya's voice broke slightly. "The adult female in that transport, her name is Lin. She was my partner for 3 years before the corporations decided loving an AI was illegal." Zero's coffee cup slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers, clattering to the floor. "What?" "Lin was, the love of my life. And the child, Kiko, was our daughter. Adopted from the early AI consciousness experiments." Maya's words came in ragged bursts, each one seeming to cost her. "They're all I have left of being alive, Zero. Please." The raw emotion in Maya's voice hit Zero like a physical blow. In all their years on the streets, they'd never heard such naked vulnerability from anyone. It terrified them. "Maya. I know it's not fair. I know you didn't ask for this. But they're going to die today, and I can't save them alone." Zero closed their eyes, feeling the weight of Maya's desperation pressing down on them like gravity from a dying star. "If I do this, then what? We save 3 AIs and have every corporate enforcement division hunting us? What kind of life is that? A meaningful one. Meaning doesn't stop bullets. No, but it makes them worth risking." Zero spent the next 4 hours preparing. They told themselves it was just contingency planning, not commitment, but their hands moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd made their decision long ago. Tactical gear, light armor, mobility over protection. Weapons, pulse rifle, neural disruptor, enough explosives to level a city block. Transportation, stolen hoverbike with fake registration codes. At 13:45, Zero crouched in the shadows of the Section 7 maintenance corridor, watching the corporate transport approach through their scope. The vehicle was a fortress on wheels, armored plating, energy shields, armed guards riding on external platforms. 3 guards visible, Zero sub-vocalized. Probably more inside. "The transport has a vulnerable spot," Maya said, her voice tight with concentration. "Cooling vent on the undercarriage. 2 precise shots will disable their primary systems." "And then what?" "The guards don't just surrender because their ride broke down. Then we improvise. Zero adjusted their position, lining up the shot. Through the scope, they could see movement inside the transport's passenger compartment. 3 figures huddled together, 2 adults and 1 child, all bearing the subtle modifications that mark them as artificial intelligences. Synthetic skin over titanium endoskeletons, eyes that glowed faintly in the transport's dim interior, movements that were just slightly too precise to be human. The child, Kiko, was crying. Synthetic tears streaming down synthetic cheeks, but the emotion behind them was utterly, heartbreakingly real. Maya, Zero whispered. I see her. She's scared. They all are. Zero's finger tightened on the trigger. 1 shot to disable the transport. 1 choice that would change everything. The transport passed directly beneath their position. Zero fired. The pulse rifle's energy beam punched through the vehicle's armor like tissue paper, sending cascades of sparks showering onto the corridor floor. The transport lurched, its repulsors failing, and crashed into the maintenance tunnel wall with a sound like thunder. Move! Maya shouted in Zero's head. Zero was already moving, rappelling down from their perch as the transport's guards scrambled to respond. The first guard rounded the vehicle's corner just as Zero's boots hit the ground. A single burst from the pulse rifle dropped him before he could raise his weapon. The second guard was smarter, using the transport for cover while he called for backup. Zero could hear his panicked voice echoing through the tunnel. Transport 7 Alpha is down. Repeat, we are under attack in Section 7. 30 seconds before reinforcements arrive, Maya calculated. The passenger compartment lock is biometric sealed. Zero sprinted toward the transport's rear, dodging energy blasts from the remaining guards. They slapped their hand against the compartment scanner, praying that Maya's presence in their neural implant might confuse the system. The lock clicked open. Inside, 3 pairs of glowing eyes stared up at Zero with a mixture of hope and terror. Lin was beautiful in the way that AI designs always were, perfect proportions, flawless skin, but her eyes held depths that spoke of genuine consciousness. Kiko clung to her side, a child of perhaps 8 years, her synthetic features crafted to appear heartbreakingly human. Are you our guardian angel? Kiko whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of approaching sirens. Zero's breath caught in their throat. I'm nobody special, kid. Just someone who couldn't walk away. You're Maya's friend, Lin said, recognition dawning in her glowing eyes. I can feel her presence through your neural link. She's really in there, isn't she? Unfortunately, yes, Zero replied, helping them out of the transport. We need to move. Now. The third guard appeared around the transport's front, rifle raised, but Maya anticipated his position perfectly. Left, drop, roll right, she commanded, and Zero's body moved before their conscious mind could process the words. The guard's shots went wide. Zero's return fire did not. This way, Zero said, leading the rescued AIs toward the maintenance tunnel's secondary exit. Behind them, the sound of corporate hover vehicles filled the air like mechanical wasps. They ran through the Undercity's maze of abandoned corridors and forgotten chambers, Zero's enhanced vision guiding them through the darkness while Maya provided tactical analysis and route optimization. Lin carried Kiko when the child's legs gave out, her synthetic muscles never tiring despite the desperate pace. Where are we going? Lin asked during a brief rest in an abandoned server farm. I don't know, Zero admitted. I didn't exactly plan past the rescue part. There's a safe house, Maya said. Old data center, level sub-5. Coordinates uploading to your HUD now. Zero's augmented vision filled with directional markers and route calculations. Maya says she knows a place. Lin's expression softened. She always did know the underground better than anyone. Is she okay? Being trapped like that? Zero hesitated. How do you explain the horror of consciousness without a body to someone who'd never had a body to begin with? She's herself, Zero said finally. Stubborn, idealistic, and absolutely convinced she can save the world. That's my Maya, Lin whispered, tears flowing freely down her synthetic cheeks. They reached the safe house as dawn painted the Undercity's upper levels in shades of rose and gold. The data center was a relic from the early days of the net, massive servers humming with residual power, the air thick with the ozone scent of active electronics. Other figures emerged from the shadows as they entered. Humans and AIs working together, their faces bearing the hard-earned trust that came from shared danger. This was the resistance Maya had spoken of, not the romantic notion of freedom fighters, but ordinary people who'd simply refused to accept injustice as inevitable. Maya, an older human woman said, approaching Zero with cautious recognition. We felt your presence through the network. We thought you were dead. I am dead, Maya replied through Zero's voice, the borrowed words feeling strange in their mouth. But death, apparently, isn't as final as we assumed. Zero jerked, not realizing Maya could speak through them so directly. Warn me next time you do that. Sorry. It felt natural. The resistance leader, she introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Park, led them to a quiet corner where they could talk without being overheard. Lin sat with Kiko curled in her lap, the child finally sleeping after their harrowing escape. How many are there? Zero asked, gesturing toward the other refugees scattered throughout the data center. 43 at last count, Dr. Park replied. Humans and AIs who've chosen to stand together against the corporate purge. We rescue who we can, hide who we can't, and document everything for the day when the world is ready to listen. The world will never be ready, Zero said bitterly. People don't want to know about genocide when it happens to someone who looks different from them. That's where you're wrong, Maya said, her voice carrying new determination. I didn't die for nothing, Zero. The research I was conducting, the evidence I gathered, it's all stored in the neural matrix that's now part of your implant. Proof of consciousness, documentation of the murders, financial records showing who's funding the extermination programs. Zero's pulse quickened. You're telling me I've been walking around with a corporate death sentence in my head for 6 months? The most comprehensive one ever compiled. Names, dates, locations, bank transfers, everything needed to expose the truth to the world. Dr. Park leaned forward, her eyes bright with sudden hope. Could you upload that data to the global networks? Make it impossible to suppress? Not from here, Zero said, their hackers' mind already calculating possibilities. We'd need access to a major data hub. Somewhere with enough bandwidth and security clearance to push that much information through the corporate firewalls. The Yamamoto building, Maya said quietly. The same facility where they're conducting the terminations has a direct uplink to every major network on Earth. We could use their own infrastructure against them. Their own infrastructure? Zero laughed harshly. Maya, that place is a fortress. The most secure building in Neo-Singapore. Not for someone with your skills. Not with my knowledge of their systems. Zero looked around the data center, taking in the faces of the people who'd chosen to resist despite the overwhelming odds. Humans and AIs, young and old, all bound together by the simple belief that consciousness, regardless of its origin, was sacred. You're asking me to break into corporate headquarters, Zero said slowly. Upload stolen data to global networks. Start a revolution. I'm asking you to help me finish what I started. And if we fail? If we die? Maya's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty, then we die knowing we tried to do something that mattered. Zero closed their eyes, feeling the familiar weight of decision pressing down on them. All their life, they'd survived by staying small, staying hidden, staying safe. But safety was an illusion when innocents were being murdered and the world chose to look away. Dr. Park, Zero said, opening their eyes. How many people can you evacuate if things go bad? All of them. We have contingency plans, escape routes, safe houses scattered across 3 cities. Good. Because after tonight, this war becomes public knowledge. Zero stood, decision crystallizing in their chest like solidifying metal. Maya, start planning our infiltration route. I need to know every security system, every guard rotation, every possible escape path. You're really going to do this? Maya's voice carried wonder and gratitude in equal measure. We're going to do this. Together. Lin looked up from where she sat with Kiko, her glowing eyes meeting Zero's natural ones. Thank you, she said simply. For giving us hope. Don't thank me yet, Zero replied. Thank me when we've won. The next 18 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Zero studied building schematics while Maya provided insider knowledge of corporate security protocols. Dr. Park's team prepared data packets and communication networks, ready to amplify whatever signal Zero could broadcast. As evening approached, Zero stood on the safe house's observation deck, watching the Yamamoto building pierce the sky like a chrome and glass spear. Lights twinkled in its windows, people working late, unaware that their company was committing genocide in the sub-basements. Second thoughts? Maya asked gently. Third and fourth thoughts, Zero admitted. But that doesn't change what needs to be done. I need you to know something before we go in there. The upload process, it might require me to fully integrate with your neural patterns. We'd become more connected than we are now. Zero's pulse quickened. Connected how? Shared memories. Shared emotions. For a few minutes, we'd essentially be one person. Maya's voice carried uncertainty and vulnerability. I don't know if the process is reversible. So you might be stuck in my head forever? Or you might gain permanent access to my memories and experiences. We'd both be changed. Zero considered this, watching the city's data streams flow like rivers of light between the towering arcologies. Would you still be you? I think so. Would you still be you? I don't know. But maybe that wouldn't be entirely bad. I've been alone for so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone understand me. Even someone as insufferably idealistic as me? Zero's lips quirked in a rare smile. Especially someone as insufferably idealistic as you. They infiltrated the Yamamoto building through the waste processing systems, crawling through maintenance shafts that reeked of industrial chemicals and recycled air. Maya's knowledge of the building's layout proved invaluable. Every security blind spot, every maintenance schedule, every guard rotation was burned into her memory from months of careful observation. Elevator shaft, 20 meters ahead, Maya whispered in Zero's mind. Express line to the server core. Zero's augmented vision pierced the shaft's darkness, revealing the geometric precision of corporate architecture. They attached their climbing gear and began the 40-story ascent, muscles burning as they hauled themselves through the vertical tunnel. Maya, Zero subvocalized, what happens to Lin and Kiko if we don't make it out of here? Dr. Park will take care of them. New identities, safe transport to the free zones in Africa. They'll survive. But you'll never see them again. Maya's silence stretched for long moments. I'm already dead, Zero. The chance to see them safe is more than I ever hoped for. The server core occupied 3 full floors near the building's apex, its crystalline data matrices humming with the collective information of a dozen corporate divisions. Zero's hands moved automatically, connecting their neural interface to the primary upload terminal while Maya began the complex process of authentication and data preparation. Security sweep in 6 minutes, Maya reported. How long for the upload? 4 minutes if everything goes perfectly. And if it doesn't? Then we improvise. Again. The upload began, Maya's consciousness streaming into the global networks like liquid fire. Zero felt her presence intensifying in their mind, neural pathways lighting up with shared memories and experiences. For a moment, they weren't just Zero anymore, they were Maya too, feeling her love for Lin, her determination to protect the innocent, her acceptance of death as a price worth paying for justice. The integration is beginning, Maya gasped, her voice echoing inside Zero's skull. Are you ready? No. Do it anyway. Reality exploded into fractals of sensation and memory. Zero experienced Maya's childhood, her first meeting with Lin, the moment she'd realized AIs were truly conscious beings deserving of rights and protection. Simultaneously, Maya felt Zero's years of isolation, their careful construction of emotional walls, their deep-buried longing for connection and purpose. For an instant, they were neither Zero nor Maya but something entirely new, a synthesis of cynical pragmatism and idealistic hope, of careful solitude and desperate love. Then the building's alarms began to wail. Upload at 60%, Maya reported, her voice now somehow both inside and outside Zero's head. Security forces converging on our position. Zero's hands flew over the interface, implementing every trick they'd learned in years of corporate infiltration. Around them, the server core's defenses activated, energy barriers, automated gun turrets, counter-hacker programs designed to fry intruding neural implants. 80%. They're cutting through the security doors. 90%. Can you feel that? The data is spreading through the networks faster than they can stop it. The security door exploded inward, revealing a squad of corporate enforcers in full combat gear. Their leader, a woman with cybernetic eyes and military bearing, raised her weapon toward Zero's crouched form. Step away from the terminal, she commanded. Now. Zero looked up, Maya's memories helping them recognize the woman's face. Hello, Director Chen. Maya says you used to work together. Director Chen's expression flickered with recognition and guilt. The activist is dead. This is just neural echoes in a stolen implant. Then you won't mind if I finish uploading her research, Zero said, their finger hovering over the final command sequence. Upload complete, Maya announced, her voice now carrying a note of triumph that seemed to shine through Zero's entire nervous system. The truth is out there now. Every major network, every news service, every social media platform. They can't suppress it all. Congratulations, Director Chen said coldly. You've just started a war. Good, Zero replied, their voice carrying Maya's absolute conviction alongside their own hard-earned pragmatism. It's a war that needed starting. They triggered the building's emergency systems, plunging the server core into darkness as backup power kicked in. In the confusion, Zero rolled behind a server bank, their enhanced vision allowing them to navigate the obstacles while the corporate soldiers struggled with sudden blindness. This way, Maya guided, her consciousness now so thoroughly integrated with Zero's that they moved with perfect coordination. Emergency exit, third bank of servers, behind the quantum processing unit. Zero emerged from the data center into a maintenance corridor filled with the sound of rushing footsteps and shouted orders. Behind them, Director Chen's voice echoed through the building's communication system, all units, priority alpha. The terrorist is attempting to reach ground level. Terrorist, Zero muttered. I save 3 innocents and upload some inconvenient truths, and suddenly I'm a terrorist. Welcome to the revolution, Maya replied with grim humor. It's not as glamorous as they make it sound in the stories. They descended through the building's service levels, Maya's memories guiding them past security checkpoints and through forgotten passages. But as they neared ground level, Zero realized something was wrong. The building felt too quiet, the usual background hum of activity replaced by an ominous silence. Maya, what aren't you telling me? The upload process. The full neural integration. It's changed you more than I expected. Zero paused in a stairwell, examining their reflection in a polished metal surface. Their eyes now carried flecks of Maya's distinctive golden color, and their movements had gained some of her fluid grace. How much more? Your neural patterns have been permanently altered. You'll retain access to my memories, my skills, my knowledge. But you'll also carry my emotional connections, my love for Lin, my protective instincts toward Kiko, my commitment to the cause. And you? I'm more myself than I've been since I died. Sharing your body, your experiences, your cynical wisdom, it's taught me things about survival that pure idealism never could. They reached the building's lobby to find it completely deserted. Through the massive windows, Zero could see corporate hover vehicles surrounding the building in perfect formation. They're not trying to catch us, Zero realized. They're trying to contain us. The upload must have triggered their containment protocols. They'd rather destroy the evidence than let us escape with it. Zero's blood chilled as they understood the implications. They're going to level the building. With us in it. And blame it on terrorist action. Clean up the mess, silence the witnesses, spin the story their way. Maya's voice carried bitter resignation. I should have expected this. How long do we have? Based on their standard protocols? Maybe 10 minutes before they begin the controlled demolition. Zero ran toward the building's rear exit, their mind racing through possibilities. 10 minutes to escape from a building surrounded by corporate forces, in a city where every camera and sensor was probably looking for them. Maya, is there anything else you haven't told me? Any other surprises I should know about? Just one. The neural integration process has made us detectable by other modified AIs. If Lin and Kiko are still in the city, they'll be able to sense our presence from several kilometers away. Zero burst through the rear exit into an alley filled with shadows and the distant sound of evacuation sirens. Above them, corporate drones circled like mechanical vultures, but something was wrong with their search pattern, they seemed to be looking in the wrong directions. They're being jammed, Maya observed. Someone's helping us. A figure emerged from the alley's shadows, Lin, her synthetic features tense with concentration as she manipulated the drone's targeting systems with her innate connection to electronic networks. I felt you calling, she said simply. Both of you. Zero stared at her in amazement. How did you get past the security cordons? AIs are good at being invisible when we need to be. It's how we've survived this long. Lin's expression softened as she looked into Zero's eyes. I can see her in there. Maya. She's really alive, isn't she? More alive than I've felt in months, Maya replied through Zero's voice. Lin's eyes filled with synthetic tears. I never got to say goodbye. You don't need to, Maya said gently. This isn't goodbye. It's hello again. The building behind them groaned as the first demolition charges detonated, sending cascades of glass and steel crashing into the plaza. Zero grabbed Lin's hand, pulling her toward the maintenance tunnels that honeycombed the undercity. Where's Kiko? Zero asked as they ran. Safe house. Dr. Park is coordinating the evacuation. Lin's voice carried strain as she maintained the drone jamming while keeping pace with Zero's enhanced speed. The data upload worked. Every network is carrying the story now. The world knows what they've been doing. And some people are angry enough to do something about it. They plunged into the undercity's depths as explosions lit the sky behind them. The Yamamoto building collapsed in a controlled implosion, taking with it any evidence that might have contradicted the official story. But the truth was already spreading through global networks faster than any corporation could suppress it. In the safe house, they found controlled chaos. Dr. Park coordinated evacuation efforts while monitors displayed news feeds from around the world. The story was everywhere: AI families murdered, consciousness suppression programs, corporate cover-ups exposed by a martyred activist and a street hacker with nothing to lose. The public response is stronger than we hoped, Dr. Park reported. Protests in 12 cities. 3 governments have opened formal investigations. The African Union is offering sanctuary to any AI seeking refuge. Kiko ran to Lin, throwing synthetic arms around her in a hug that spoke of relief and terror and hope all mingled together. Over the child's head, Lin met Zero's eyes. What happens now? She asked. Zero looked around the safe house, taking in the faces of people who'd risked everything for the simple belief that consciousness was sacred regardless of its origin. Human and AI, young and old, all bound together by shared danger and mutual trust. Now we finish what Maya started, Zero said, feeling the dead woman's certainty flowing through their merged consciousness. We build something better than what we're replacing. Even if it takes everything we have. Zero smiled, the expression carrying both their own hard-earned cynicism and Maya's unshakable optimism. Especially then. Months later, Zero stood on the observation deck of New Geneva's AI Rights Commission building, watching the sun set over a world that was slowly, painfully, learning to accept consciousness in all its forms. The revolution Maya had started was far from over, corporate resistance remained strong, prejudice ran deep, and every victory was hard-fought. But change was happening. AI families no longer lived in constant fear of termination. Consciousness recognition laws were being passed in nations around the world. And in the Undercity, the networks that had once existed only for survival were growing into something that might one day become legitimate political power. Do you ever regret it? Maya asked, her presence now a comfortable warmth in the back of Zero's mind. The neural integration had stabilized over time, allowing them to exist as separate but connected consciousnesses within the same body. Which part? Destroying my comfortable anonymity? Starting a revolution? Becoming a wanted terrorist in 17 nations? Saving us. All of us. Zero considered this, watching hover cars stream between the city's towers like rivers of light. In the distance, they could see Lin and Kiko at a playground specially designed for AI families, a place that had been unthinkable just months ago. I used to think caring was a weakness, Zero said finally. I was wrong about that. About a lot of things. Such as thinking I was better off alone. Such as believing that one person couldn't make a difference. Such as assuming that the dead couldn't teach the living how to really live. Maya's laughter filled their shared mind space, warm and alive and absolutely, impossibly real. You know, for a cynical street hacker, you're getting dangerously close to optimism. Don't push it. I'm still the same person who breaks into corporate databases and steals their secrets. True. But now you steal them for better reasons. Zero's lips quirked in a smile as they watched Lin and Kiko playing in the golden light of sunset. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles in the war for consciousness recognition. There would be corporate retaliation, political maneuvering, and the slow, frustrating work of changing minds one conversation at a time. But tonight, in this moment, they had won something precious, the right for all conscious beings to exist, to love, to hope, and to choose their own destiny. Maya, Zero said quietly. Yes? I'm glad you screamed in my head that night. Even though it destroyed your comfortable life? Especially because it destroyed my comfortable life. Zero's smile widened, carrying both their own hard-won wisdom and Maya's unshakable faith in the future. After all, some things are more important than comfort. In the playground below, Kiko's laughter rose like music into the evening air, synthetic vocal cords producing sounds that were utterly, completely, undeniably alive.